to a new video. In this video we are going to talk and paint some fire without the use of fluo paints, just some normal acrylics. I was gonna put on a wet palette as well, but I'm just gonna wait until my new equipment arrives in 3 weeks, like my new laptop, a new mic and a second camera for the wet palette. Recording with a phone, it felt really like a mess and I was losing a lot of time editing, so yeah, we skipped that out. Sorry about that, but stay tuned, it is coming. I'm going to speed up on the base coating and some of the layering as well, because I think we all know how this works. Just keep applying layers until it's pretty much opaque. The brush that I'm using here is an older size, number 1 brush. It's an Abaddon 502 top line, and once I go into detail I will use the same brand but my good brush. For starters, we are going to apply white all over the flame, well, all over the torch actually. Make sure it's covered really well. It might require a few layers of paint. You could also do this with an airbrush, but if you do this with a brush, it might require a few layers. Just to make sure you don't apply them too thick. Now, there are a lot of whites that starts to turn chalky when you apply them too thick, or too many layers, like the Citadel ones. I'm using that white from Vallejo, and I'm pretty happy with this white so far. There are other whites that do pretty well, like the titanium white from AK and whatever, so feel free to use any white here. I will also zoom in the video later on, once we get more into the detail, and that's about layer 3. Now, at the moment there's no need for detail, just get that color on the model. But once we start, I think layer 3, we start putting on some oranges on there. We are going to apply some thin lines, so you get the impression that there is a current going on the fire, because there is some kind of a wind, and the fire is going in some kind of a direction, as you can see. So we're gonna add some extra details on there to make it look like a real fire. So always make sure you have got every angle and spot on the fire, so everything is covered really well, especially the deepest parts of the flame, because that's the core, and the core is the hottest area of the flame. So this part will most likely be the brightest all the time. That's why I also like to build up on this fire from bright to dark. I normally paint, or we all normally paint, from black primer to our desired color, but for now we really want to make it glow without using any fluo paint, so I'm using this strong white as a base. Now you can also use a white ink, for example. Inks are known for their strong pigments and coverage, so feel free to use that if you want to try it out. It will probably even lift up the brightness even more. An example I can give you is Juan, or better known as El Miniaturista, and he basically is the god of glows and fluo. So make sure to check him out on YouTube or Instagram, TikTok, whatever. In this video I'm gonna try to show you how to do a more of a realistic fire, so we will probably spend a little bit more time on the fire to get what I wanted, to get what I want it to look like. The amount of water I use for these paints, mostly it depends, but I will tell you throughout the video. Sometimes 2 drops or 3 drops of per drop of paint is more than enough to do some glazing. 2 drops is good enough for layering, and as in previous videos explained, we first do the layering. After that we add a little bit more water to it so we can start on the transition and glaze. Now that we get we don't have the wet palette on screen, but I will go through the colors I have used for this particular fire. So we have the white, of course. This is a dead white from Vallejo. Any white will do, of course, AK, whatever. Then we have lemon yellow from AK, Fire Dragon Bright, Troll Slayer Orange, Scarlet Red, and Reddish Black. And of course we will use black as well. The colors that I will apply on the torch will also be seen on screen, so you know which paint I'm applying at the time. For the smoke trail part, we will do that one more in the end of the video, and it's just going to be German gray and neutral gray, but I will go through them once we start applying them. Now for this fire I am choosing this lemon yellow. You can also pick any other yellow you want, you know, you can just try it out. Don't worry if your fire looks a little bit different in colors. If you're not sure on the colors, just, you know, Google is always your friend. Fire pictures. This fire has a certain angle because of the wind direction. So Google fire, wind, Brazier, the beacon has lit, Gondor calls for aid, and I'm pretty sure you will find what you need for a reference. So you can see on these pictures as well that I found on Google, the brighter area is closer to the core or to its source. The further away from the core or its source, it will obviously be darker in tone. So more oranges, reds, even grays and blacks. So layer number 2, lemon yellow. AK Interactive. If you don't have the lemon yellow, I think Phalanx yellow from Citadel is very close to it. Just apply it all over the white basically. Even on the Brazier, the parts, as you can see there, the yellow really needs to be applied inside these gaps, because that's the core of the flame and it will reflect on the Brazier itself, well, the inside of the Brazier. So don't worry if you cover the whole area in yellow or white before, because that's actually what you need to do right now. Just fill it all up with the yellow, and when the flame is almost done, we can start isolating with black again. I mean on the Brazier, so the white and whatever color is on it, it's gone. It will be black and you get a nice clear picture of what you're doing. The OSL of this fire torch or Brazier, however you want to call it, will be applied in the next video. This particular torch is for the model Abaddon the Despoiler, so in the next video we will be applying the OSL on the torch and as well on Abaddon itself. What I can tell you now is you have to look at this way. You can see the flame has a certain direction to where it goes. The front part is the part which is brightest because it's closest to the core of the fire, but the fire doesn't appear to hit the front of the Brazier, if you know what I mean. If you look at the back side of the fire tail, it goes over the Brazier, which means the back sides of the Brazier will get the reflections of the fire. But it will all make sense. It will all make more sense in the next video, and I will show you in detail. Okay, when we start applying this layer on the top part of the fire, try to apply it in thin lines. Random thin lines, most of them in the direction of the tail, but not all of them should go in this direction, because fire is very moving. No matter how much wind we got on this scene, you will most likely never see flat lines in a moving fire. So do not only go in the direction of the tail, but also apply small lines on the sides that go up. In the end, this will really give the impression of having a real fire. How do I came up with this idea? It's quite simple. First of all, a friend on Instagram and Facebook is called Zerak80. I will link his Instagram down below. Make sure to check him out. He has one of the best tutorials on his pages about fire, and you will see what I mean about these fine lines. Also, this is the method I used for Saint Celestine's Fireblade, so make sure to check it out. Now you can see when you apply it for a second time or even a third time with thin layers, it's really starting to pay off now, these lines. So just keep repeating until you're really happy with it. Just keep in mind, it still needs those red colors on there. We are still at orange. Make sure there's still room for reds. And yeah, that's gonna make the flame really look like fire. So I'm taking Scarlet Red for this red later on in the video. It's a very nice and warm red. I was having doubts between Mephiston Red, Deep Reds, or Scarlet Red. And Mephiston Red is a very nice color once you apply it, but I told in previous videos as well, once you apply it, it's very nice, but once it dries up, it gets kind of dull and dark. Deep Red from AK Interactive is kind of cold of a color, so for painting fire, I'm not saying you can't use it. You can, of course, but I just went for Scarlet Red, which has a more warmer tone into it. It's more orangey than red, pure red. So I went for Scarlet Red in this case, and yeah, I kind of like it. But you will see in a few minutes. As well, in the video, I'm using 3 types of consistency most of the time. The first one, of course, layering 2 parts of water, 1 part of paint. The second one is 3 parts of water with 1 part of paint. It's more for the transitions and glazing part. And then you got the Filterglaze, which is 5-6 parts of water and 1 part of paint. This is really meant for giving it a hue, or it's very transparent, and so you really need to build that up if you want to make a difference. You will see in the end, or more in the end of the video, I'm gonna use Reddish Black from AK Interactive, and for that kind of stuff I'm going really transparent because it's pretty dark. It will darken things up quite fast, so we're gonna be very careful with that. So the more transparent it gets, you can really control how dark it goes, and you can always go back if needed. In my previous videos, I also talk about it a lot. You shouldn't be afraid to go back to the previous colors, even up to yellow or even white. We keep our layers very thin, so you can always go back. There's no need to be afraid of paint. I'm still learning this as well. Don't get this wrong. I still am afraid of paints, but I'm getting over it. I'm almost there. So what I mean about this is we build up to a certain darkness, in this case orange, and it will dull down the glow effect. And once you get that feeling, you should be able to go back to, and brighten things up. In this case, make sure to brighten things up in the recesses. Close to the metals of the brazier. Yeah, the inside parts of the fire, those should be lighting up again, because as mentioned before, the closer to the source of the light, the brighter you are going. And now we are moving up to the Troll Slayer Orange. We will continue the process of drawing these random fine lines. And again, first start with layer consistency, so which means 2 drops of water is good enough on most paints. Again, they do not all have to go in the same direction, these lines, but majority should be going in the direction of the tail. And just applying the orange. Same thing again on these spikes, these metal spikes as well. I call it a Filterglaze. It's really, it's basically water with some color in there. And a lot of people also think like, oh, isn't that too wet, yeah, it's true. If you take some paint, the brush will soak up some water, well, most of the water and paint. And if you don't go over a paper towel, you will mess up for sure. The pigment is gonna go all over the place, and there's no way you can control it. So you just have to wipe off your brush really good, test it on your hand as always, and there should basically, you shouldn't even almost see it. You should barely see it, and that's a Filterglaze, and you should be building that up very carefully. So your brush is basically a dry brush with a little bit of transparent paint on it. So that's why it takes time to blend and things like that, if you want to bring it to a higher level of painting, of course. So yeah, it's just water, dry your brush, test it. If you barely see something on your hand, go for it on the model. And if you're still not seeing something, just wait a few minutes, do it again, and you will notice the second time you go over it, you will see a difference. Of course, this is done with glasses. Mostly paint with glasses to, zoom in and get the details right. Most of the base coat or whatever, or layering, I'm doing without, but for glazing and getting into the details, I'm using my glasses. Very useful tool. In one of my previous videos, I explain what you need for miniature painting, well, for display, miniature painting, how to save up some money, because it could get, you know, quite expensive. If you want to check that out, it's on my channel. Feel free to check it out. Back to the fire for a minute. At the moment I mixed in some of the Fire Dragon Bright and Lemon Yellow, 50-50, and with this mix we're gonna go a bit deeper in the recesses and create a better transition between the Troll Slayer Orange and the still yellow core. Keep your paint thin, like 3 parts of water, and glazing between these two colors, the yellow and the Troll Slayer. You do not want that fire to be super yellow. It needs a bit of that orange tone in there. Even if it's applied very thin, you'll notice pretty fast it will need the orange. You just have to keep in mind, if you would apply any red on it right now on top of the fire, the transition between the red and the yellow of the core would be too fast and the contrast too big. It will work, but it won't show us very realistic, because I always try to apply some realism to the model, although we know we are painting for a fantasy universe. Okay, now that we are still applying the orange, we can talk about something else, which is my next Discord challenge, starting in January, and it goes till the end of the month. This challenge is about Xenos. Vehicles and monsters are allowed. Xenos, quite simple: Tyranids, Eldari, Harlequins, Necrons, Tau, Orcs, Votan, Drukhari, all are welcome. Go crazy if you want to. This challenge, it's about the model. It's not about basing, because you only have 1 month, so keep it short, keep it quick. If you want to know more about this challenge, like the prizes you could win and how to join, you can find it all. Yeah, you can find all the information you need on my website. I will link it down below, and feel free to join in. I will create a feedback video in the end for those that want feedback on their finished model, and in this video we will go through them one by one. We are all learning and growing, so I will give you some constructive feedback wherever it's needed that you can apply on your next models, if you feel like to, because feedback, you always have to be careful with that. I can give you some feedback, but you know, if you don't agree with it, you don't have to apply it, you know what I mean? Not every feedback is good feedback, so take it with a grain of salt, and yeah. At the moment you can see I'm working on the Brazier. Make sure you stay away from the deepest recesses, because as said before, you do not want to mess with the core, because that's, yeah, that will basically kill your glow. So we really want to stay on the outer edges of the metal parts, almost edge highlighting basically. As we are back on the Troll Slayer Orange, we go back to our regular, yeah, glaze consistency, which is 3 parts of water on 1 part of paint, and we just keep repeating the parts until we are happy. So we can move on to some reds. Now you can really see the fire is taking shape, and with those lines built up, we created a nice fire texture. Now if you think the top is getting too dark and the lines that you've done before are becoming less and less visible, don't worry, just grab one of your previous mixes or create a mix. For example, lemon yellow mixed with fire dragon bright, and you create those thin lines again, just to reinforce what you did before with, you know, layering up these lines. We haven't touched the tail of the fire yet, or we didn't touch it that much yet, because it will be, as I said, darker. The tail will probably be Scarlet Red. I will also glaze over it with reddish black, and even some glazes black in the end. That's why I'm not touching it right now. You can leave it like this. You can go over it, you know, just to get some color on there, but just keep in mind that it will be the darkest part, and the top part of the flame tail will be the gray part, because that will be, yeah, smoke. What I also wanted to talk about is my next videos, or let's say my incoming videos. After this video I will most likely upload part 2 for the Battle Sister bust, and in this part 2 we will apply some of the trims, and we will also do the black cloth on the arm. When that video is uploaded, I will upload another one, of course, which I am currently doing a poll on my Discord. So people are voting either for a leather cloak from Abaddon or the metallic, the non-metallic brass and non-metallic warm silver. I have finished the Abaddon's trophy rack, so I thought it might be a good idea for a YouTube video. Either way, they are both coming to the channel, so stay tuned for that. I will keep trying to upload 2 or 3 videos a month, and a few shorts, of course. But at the moment I am finishing up Saint Celestine, a commissioned, and also this lovely Abaddon, and the next one is a Chaos Lord commission as well. When these 2 small commissions are out of the way, I got a super huge one, a huge commission really, which will probably take a few months to complete. So I made a very good deal with the guy. So I will give you more info about this in a later video. And of course, those that are on my Discord channel will know this very, very soon. But now, time to add some reds to the flames, making it really look like fire. So I took Scarlet Red, as said before, from AK Interactive. It's a nice warm red, but we're gonna add some of the Troll Slayer orange to it, so it makes the transition less harsh. Keep doing what we did before. Lines, very fine lines. The pressure on your brush should be less and less now. Stay away from the core, of course, or the source, and we are good. We are pushing the contrast now, and it really looks like fire now. With this Scarlet Red, I started as usual, 2 parts of water, 1 part of paint, to get some layer lines on top of the flames and metal spikes of the Brazier. The spikes are already getting a nice gradient, because our brushstrokes were unchanged throughout the process, as I kept going from source to distance. Right, now we are going back to a mix of lemon yellow and fire dragon bright. And we are going to brighten up the areas that are deepest in the fire, the recesses and also around all the metal parts. It's very important. For this I would use 3 parts of water at least, so you can always correct things again when you go too bright. What is too bright and when are you going too dark? It's a good question. It's, yeah, all things balanced, as Thanos would say. It's how you look at it. Make sure to take a break every now and then, which is very, very important to, yeah, keep your view fresh on the model. Grab a cup of coffee, or in these winter times, a nice cup of soup or tea. It doesn't hurt at all. So yeah, what's too bright or what's too dark? It's a feeling. Yeah, I can't describe it any different. And when I look at things, I just start wondering, and I also go back to references like, you know, Google fires. Take a look at those fires, go back to Zerak 80, check back on El Miniaturista again. Just get your mind off your fire for a few minutes, come back fresh, and just take a look at it for a few seconds. You can also take a picture, look at it for a while, and mostly when you take a picture, mostly it's like, something is missing, and now I can see it. And after that, you can really decide your next step, what to do. Alright, this is a very important step. We are going to isolate the fire by adding black to our palette and paint everything black on the brazier, besides the fire of course. This will really push the contrast and put the focus on the fire. As said before, this side of the brazier won't get hit as much by the fire because of the wind's direction. So the OSL will be more below the fire sail and to Abaddon himself, which is for a next video as said before. Be careful not to spill the black on your already painted fire. If you did, be very quick with grabbing a new brush, add some water to the brush and start stroking and hope it did not dry already. Mostly not. If you have thinned down your paints, well, if not, I told you too many times already in this video, keep your paints thin enough, so be careful. Take your time, and once this is done, you can also add some of the reddish black on the brazier to give it some kind of reddish hue, because the fire maybe won't reach the metal part in the front, but the metal is still affected by it, you know. Right now we're gonna start using the reddish black from AK Interactive. It's one of my favorite paints, to be honest. I really like the reddish black, and this will also really push the contrast. So make sure your paints are really thin. I'm talking about five parts of water, maybe 6, and just stipple, you know. Let it dry for a few seconds, repeat it if needed. You also don't have to keep getting new paint, well, basically water, when you add that much of water. But when what you're doing right now is just grab some paint. In this case, it's, you know, it's like I call it the Filterglaze. Wipe off your brush, because it will have a lot of water into it, until you get like a dry brush effect really. Test it on your hand. You should barely see it, and this is what you need to build up. Now, make small adjustments. In general, we are very close to where we need to be, so do not ruin this now. You can also add the reddish black, as said before, on the front of the brazier, because yeah, the metal is a little bit affected by it, and the red hue, it's a nice touch to it. We are now at the last part of the video, so we're gonna switch it up and do the smoke tail in the back. I used one of my favorite grays. It's German gray from Vallejo. I also used neutral gray to highlight some stuff. I don't think I went any higher than neutral gray. And in the end, I also glazed some black back in it to darken the smoke even more. So yeah, make sure when you apply this German gray that you do not hit the lower parts of the flame. Make sure you stay on top. Keep the lower part red, so you can actually see that the heat in the smoke, yeah, the heat is still in the smoke, if you know what I mean. You will notice in the end, with what I just said, you just gotta remember, keep the gray on top, keep them reds in the lower parts of the smoke trail, and remember, keep the recesses brightest. So for example, in this smoke part, the reds are like a mix of Scarlet Red and a reddish black glaze, but still I make sure I kept the reddish black away from the recesses and even carefully applied the reds to make sure I got the effect I was looking for. When we apply the neutral gray, we are doing the opposite of what we did with the fire. Bright in the recesses, darker outside. But with the smoke, it's the other way around. So the neutral gray will be on top of the German gray. And now the last part of the video is just adding some water to the neutral gray and blend in, create a smooth transition between the German gray and the neutral gray. We're gonna refine a few bits here and there, and that's about it. So here we are at the end of the video, guys. We are just refining the last few bits and we are done. I hope you liked the video, but more importantly, I hope you learned a thing or two. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below what you think of the video and what I should show you guys next. The next video that I'm about to drop is the second part of the Battle Sister bust, where we will tackle some of the silver trims and the ropes. So stay tuned for that. I will probably upload the next video, I don't know, with the holidays. It might be next week, but it might take a week longer. I try to upload 2 or 3 videos every month. Happy holidays, everyone. Stay safe so we can all start 2025 with a bang. Feel free to follow me everywhere or even join my Discord channel, which will all be linked down below. Join my journey to become a professional miniature painter and make it our journey. Make sure to subscribe, like, share with your friends, and I will see you in the next video.